I'm Jeremy Shear, and my guest is Shalini Khanna, Director of Digital Transformation and Consulting at vDart. Shalini, it's great to have you on.
It's great to be here, Jeremy. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're very welcome. So let's start by having you tell us about a memorable marketing moment from some point in your career.
Yeah, I have to say this one sticks. I've been in the industry in IT consulting type role for the past 15 plus years. I kind of ventured out with a startup company. I needed to get out of that comfort zone, and a relative who knew somebody who started a startup designing websites for the dental industry. Go figure, like different, totally out of my wheelhouse. But that was all about graphic design, website design, SEO, and all these buzzwords. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of creativity here. And we're sitting in the boardroom, and I was hired there in the capacity for my business development efforts. Obviously, that's what I live and breathe as part of my role as well. And, they said, come here and get the words out. We're trying to get subscriptions for websites, as many as we can. Great. We need a mission statement. We need something to be attractive, not the generic, we're the best company hoopla. We're sitting there. Everybody's casual. This is right in the Liberty Village in Toronto. And we're sitting in our casual wear. And the CEO actually was not a sales background, very technical. He's not that creative type. And he was sitting there and he said, come on, guys, I just want this done. Like, you realize marketing and we need motivation. You can't just, it's not a board meeting like logic in and out. I know you think that way. Mm-hmm. I didn't say that to him, but I was like, okay. So they're like, yeah. I said, yeah, but this is how it starts. And I said, doesn't it just start here? And they said, that's it. I said, what's it? He said, it starts here. I said, yes, it starts here. Well, then that's it. Why not put that as your bike bank websites? It starts here, ... That's it. That stuck with me. It was something that just came out, something that, organically came out. And the reason why that sticks is because it was leveraged, it was used, and it was just something that came out in a very organic way. So I was proud of myself, happy, and it was definitely teamwork but this was after butting heads and just saying, what is that tagline? So that's definitely one that stuck with me in my younger days, obviously.
That's cool. That's a great story. And sometimes that's how the best ideas come up. They just pop out, right? They just pop into your head.
Yeah. It felt like I just said something that, because we're in the boardroom. This is where the juices, this starts here. So, right. And it went so well with what they're doing because of the very green and being a startup and the web, marketing these new dental company, the new dentists or the seasoned ones. And it just made sense, So, and the reason that's memorable is because I started to take an interest in marketing outside of just being in sales, because sales and marketing,
right,
deals. And I said, I need to have more of a hand in this. So that's why it's very memorable, because it just made me realize that I can do this. I can collaborate further. So.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Great moment. So now you're no longer in the dental website business, right? You're now, that was early in your career. And now you're at a company called vDart. So tell us about vDart.
Yeah. I've just been here a little shy over a year, started last, March 2021. And, I was out of work for a year, the pandemic from 2020 to 2021, kind of like literally in March to March, on the anniversary, I'm starting to work again. Felt rusty, but now it's been great. I'm back in my element, doing what I feel I do best with networking. And my role is IT consulting on digital transformation and the professional services we provide. And, vDart as a whole company, they are a global IT consulting firm. And we've been around for 14 years, headquartered out of Atlanta, Georgia. I focus on the Canadian territory in my home office outside of Toronto in Milton, Ontario. And loving what I do, growing the brand, growing the presence, and having these types of conversations with all C-level AVPs, it's great. So I'm definitely happy with the way the career is progressing.
Okay, awesome. And good to get back to work, right?
Yeah, it's been good.
After a forced layoff, right? Right. The world of work has kind of changed a little bit in some ways, but in some ways it hasn't. So anyway, good to hear that. So now, when we first connected and I checked out your website, the first thing that I saw, and the first thing people will see still if they go to the website today, is an announcement that vDart was named, and I'm quoting here right from the website, Diverse Supplier of the Year for IT for 2022 by Toyota. It's one of your guys' big clients, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, congratulations. That is
Thank
awesome to get that designation. But my question is, why have you made this such a prominent part of your brand to the point that that's like the very first thing you see when you go to the website before even like, hey, this is what we do?
Great. Yeah, it's a great question and it's valid because, yeah, this is what we do. We are industry agnostic. We're not just a one-trick pony, right? vDart is, they definitely, it's not a one-size-fits-all, mindset. But being industry agnostic and having these digital transformation strategy solutions for across various industries, Toyota is a great story. 2021, 2022, 2 years in a row, Supplier Diversity Award, great teamwork, very proud of it. But let's talk about how that started and how relatable that is. Nothing is too small. And I have to go back to 2017 when this journey started with Toyota, when it was a staffing engagement and with a small POC that we were engaged with. A small engagement from that moment led up to, you never know. And that's what I'm saying. You never know when you have these conversations. They're like, okay, well, let's see what you guys are all about, and et cetera, et cetera. And then the journey, that whole Toyota vDart journey from the staffing, from the POC engagement, leading up to being a strategic partner today with their with key implementations around the cloud strategy, IAM, and now the digital key that's currently being implemented there, which I think is great, based on blockchain, technology Vouch, which is a digital key that replaces the fob. How cool is that? So from that to here to where we are today with Toyota and their faith in us, and the press release where they, just a paraphrase of what they think of us as a sound, partner that aligns with their core values, with the changes, with the technology as it's progressing and how relevant it is to them. So that's why I have to take that, when we put that at the forefront, and that is a journey that we've had. It's something that, again, it's relatable. It's something that we are definitely very happy and proud of, and how we engage with our clients. So I think that's very, very, people can definitely, understand that, and they get it. They get that this is how the engagements and how the importance of these conversations are, and not just assuming, right? Like, we want to listen to you. We want to grow with you. So from 2017 to 2022, that's a great story, with Toyota, and that can be across any industry, any type of client, whatever their business goals are. We would take that success, attest, our successes that we have over there. We attest a lot of that to what we've done with Toyota, and we can transfer that to our other clients. And we do. We take that ideas, our design thinking, or whatever you want to call, with our approachability to the issues or challenges, business challenges across all industries. So that's why it's the first thing we have.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. And it sounds like the strategy there is to, is more kind of on making an emotional connection with people who visit your website, rather than leading with, here's the problem we solve, or something like that. It's more, here's who we are. There's a bit of a story to it, as you were just telling us. It's
a good story, right? It's a story that you progress with. I'm not saying that there's not bumps in the road, but whenever there's a project, there are challenges, there's successes, there's lessons learned, And there's a lot of that, and, that's a whole other conversation that we could have about Toyota. But on the whole, to summarize, yeah, it's definitely something that hits more, not just this is what we do and here's the speeds and here's the feeds and this and that. There's a humane aspect to it. And I think that's where you really touch people,
Yeah, no, definitely. So now IT consulting, great business to be in a very crowded space, right? A lot of competitors out there. And I know that because we talked about it a bit before, one of the ways that you guys cut through all that noise is by doing very targeted outreach. So who are you reaching out to exactly? And how do you make your outreach efforts like memorable and effective? Like, give me an example. What does it look like when you're doing this very targeted outreach?
Yeah, like for me personally, what I do, or as a whole in the company, I take that same, the ideas that they have of when I'm looking at a client or when I'm talking about a problem statement. You don't put everybody in one basket. And you talk of technology, digital transformation is such a huge, huge term. There's so many areas of that. And so when technology consulting comes into play, all the various moving parts of that, you really look at to target the person or the key business units or people that are affected by that. And why do they want to talk? Why do they, like, let's be honest, why do I give a damn about this? So my approach is, what's keeping that individual up at night? The IT director, the CIO, the chief security officer. Like at the end of the day, why is this relevant to you? And why am I talking to you? So I take that conversation. You do your research. You better know what's going on to have some idea. And it is a crowded space. So this is one opportunity to differentiate yourself. And I think it's all about learning and listening. And at the end of the day, when you're consulting versus selling, there's a difference. And I think that's what stands out with us, that it's about having that meaningful connection and, as agile as we are and designing something that's to fit your problem, whether it's in the mid-market space or you're a big enterprise or a Fortune 500, Fortune 10, well, whomever you are, wherever you fit, we approach you accordingly, right? And we don't put you in buckets that this is it. We customize, we understand. And I think when I take my conversation and I'm targeting whatever, if it's a director of cloud strategy or, security, compliance, whatever it is, you need to have that conversation that resonates with them. At the end of the day, that's key. When you start talking to them, their language and mirroring what they want to know and how they are, when you approach them, you've made that connection, you've made that rapport. And I think that's where, the one size fits all logic has been there and evident with vDart from day one.
So
that is the case.
Can you give me a specific example without naming names or anything, but maybe a specific example of, some outreach you've done recently to like a specific prospect that worked really well? Like, how did you find them? What kind of research did you do to really figure out, what's going to resonate? And then how did you connect with them?
Yeah, there is this organization. We're actually 8 months journey now. I'm not saying, these enterprise sales cycles and these engagements, they're not like wham bam, like we're done. That's not it. It's like courting. You have to. It goes back to my sales methodology, Sandler, that I attest a lot of my successes to. You got to get that rapport is number one. So when I was talking to one of the big five banks, which I will just say that, I started creating this mini network, and putting the roles and the titles in their respective areas, right? And I how does Shalini get known? How does vDart get known? I get my name out there. So if it's not just sticking to Tom, it's Tom. Okay, Barbara's here. She's in charge. Jerry is here, just, generic names I'm putting out there. Paul is here. So when I created, you don't realize in 8 months, you've created now a presence. So that journey of a little mini network that I made with one of the big five, it turned into those, as siloed as banks are, they do know who's who,
Fair.
who's at the top of the digital transformation. He's the senior director, or he's the VP of so-and-so, they talk and they're like, then the name comes up. Well, oh, you spoke, well, vDart does this. Okay. Well, oh, that's interesting. I had this conversation. This is exactly what happened. And when those two aligned internally, the rest is history. We were invited to engage further. And now fast forward to a few meetings later and to being involved in potentially a project that is being worked on with one of their key focus areas and, business challenges that they have. We're in there. And, I'm hoping to have a success story out of this. We are engaged. But you see, that is an example of how there was a lot of research. There was a lot of understanding of, who knows who and who's. It's not just about an influencer, who makes those decisions. Like, are you, this procurement, are you buying? Are you making that decision? Or I'm just an analyst here and I have a wish list. Okay, but who really drives this? Who's driving that forward? That is key. And to know all this, I would say 8 months to now, with one of them, with one of the big five, it's been a journey. It is a longer cycle because they are very siloed. But this is an example of how the outreach that I do, how we should be doing our homework and how we should be looking at, not just getting your name into one or two people's minds. Get out there. Let them know, like, oh, Shalini should be there. Like if 5 or 10 people and eventually the commonality will strike is like, oh, I know that. Yeah. Let she talk to you or they talk to you. Here we are today in this project. So I'm happy about that. And let's see what the results are. We've already been engaged on a couple of meetings, and it just takes that one, right person or connection to get you forward. And you don't have to give up, because if it's not, you go on, knock on another area door, talk about somebody, look at what's relevant in the articles. I leverage a lot of tools, whether it's social media, LinkedIn, like Zoom Info. We look at all these tools and say, well, I need to know what the heck's going on in your world. That's my conversation starter. It's like when you're dating, you
right.
want to talk, you try to pick the brain, it's like I'm in sales and marketing or information gathering, right? So you try to, you like to read. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to talk about this. Oh, you like this, or what's the commonality? Or there's, I walk into the boardroom. Oh, there's a big, you fishing? Oh, you like to fish? Well, my uncle did this. Let's get the rapport. These are small little things, and definitely they work.
Yeah. So in this particular instance, let's dig into this a little bit more. In this particular instance, what did you do? Like once you kind of identified, like, okay, here are some people I think I want to get to know.
Yeah.
How did you first reach out? Like what kind of, were you just emailing them? Were you creating content that you were sharing with them? Like what did that actually look like?
So, there's different touch points, and that's getting to know the pet peeves as well. And you kind of understand how people respond and, over time. And I said, well, they are actually opening my email. I'll put them, I said, I don't want to be that. I'm tenacious, but I don't want to be, the pain in the, what, like either. There's the fine line. But when you talk about the follow-ups or that phone call that you make, or if it's email, it's not just one, right? You got to combine. That's a recipe. You combine your efforts in your outreach, the touch points, and you also be proactive. So when somebody was talking about my challenges here, I don't have XYZ resources. What do? Staffing augmentation. Now here's an example. staffing augmentation professional services and which is our big forte and what we've been doing, how we started out as a staffing firm. vDart knows this. Let's leverage vDart's database. So when I took that information and said, here's just a taste of what we can do for you. So I provided relevant, not to give away names, privacy and all, scrub names. Like, here's an example of Jane Doe, and Bob Smith or whatever, with what they can do. This is your world of, having these, of DevOps. So here's the relevant people. You're looking to acquire more talent. This is what we can do. So I leveraged that database. I created a little bit of a mini chart with our internal, team that I have. That's wonderful. And they were able to craft that and up in a nice way. And I was able to articulate that this is what you can potentially expect from us. To me, that added so much more value instead of just, this is what we can do this. We can, well, here's a sample. Kind of like giving them a flavor of, okay, well, you have this. Okay, well, that's great. Let's talk about this further. When they received that, questions come about, more follow-ups. That's music to my ears, because what does a follow-up mean? Follow-up means we get to discuss more, unveil more. And when you unveil more, you learn more, you listen and you learn and you understand, well, this is another key area that we can, be engaged with. So that is kind of how I targeted. And that's just one part of this whole little mini network of RBC. I'm giving you an example of where we were able to be proactive and provide our value.
Right. So it's all about providing value at every touch. And it sounds like you really took pains to personalize how you were interacting with these folks and providing value in a way that was personal to them.
Yeah, because we can be generic, and just talk like, hey there, we do this. And, let's be honest, I'm in sales, but I don't want to come off salesy,
Sure.
At the end of the day. I'm sorry, that cliche, no disrespect to selling like a car salesman, but it speeds and feeds. But even that is such a personal thing, right? It's one of the most important purchases of your life. So when I walk in, like when I'm looking to buy a new car and I can relate to this, understand me. I'm not like that teenager. I'm a mother of two. So what that teenager wants and what I want are two different things. So if it's just hey, there's speeds and feeds, like that's it. Individualize, understand, get to know. Like I said, we're all unique in what we need and we all have unique responsibilities and roles. And that goes for not just the consumer, like as a consumer, that goes for the B2B industry, that goes for how I engage with this, one of the big five, and how they were able to really, say that, well, so what I did internally to keep me on track is I actually respectfully talked about, here's the cloud, here's the security group, here's the, the head of digital transformation, here's, this person works on the DevOps side. And then I started putting the top down, you want to make sure you know where to go. For me, that is a project in itself. And it is, because we're talking about one of the big five banks, and there's 30,000 plus employees maybe here. How do you really narrow it down? So it can be overwhelming, but I think at the end of the day, if you start with the bits and stick to the key, 5 top key areas, then you won't feel like, oh my goodness, because it's a mountain. It's literally a mountain that you have to climb. That's what it feels like.
Right. You got to take it one bit at a time.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's work, it's effort, but it's well worth it.
I hear you. By the way, you used this phrase twice, speeds and feeds. What was that you were saying?
So when I say speeds and feeds, I'm going back to my reseller days when I was selling everything under the sun.
What does that mean? What is speeds and feeds?
Here's a printer. Here's my speeds. It does 50 pages per second or minute or 100 pages. And, it's got this much memory. And here's this, just the high, all the speeds and feeds of what it gives you.
Okay.
Here's a car, this much horsepower and this and that speeds and feeds. That's not that's what I meant by, I'm not here saying that you need this and that's it. No, I'm going to learn about you, and then I'm going to understand and have a solution that is based around your problem statement, because we can customize, we can individualize that. Yes, there are speeds and feeds everywhere, but I'm not fitting you into that. I want us to fit into your world. That's what.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a great way of putting it. Okay. Well, Shalini, thank you so much. Great conversation. There's so much more we can talk about, but I don't want to keep you any longer. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and all your great insights.
Thank you, Jeremy. It was great to talk to you as well. Take care. Have a great rest of the week.